So here we are, coming to the end of 2023. And you were saying earlier, Michelle, that we look a bit knackered, don't we?
Yes.
We look a bit tired.
Yeah, we do.
And we've had a tough year.
We haven't had a tough year.
No,
We've had a great year.
We've had a great year.
Yeah.
And the object of this podcast is to... We toyed, didn't we? We toyed with either doing what everybody does at this time of year, which is talking about 2024 and New Year's resolutions and what we're all going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Less so reflecting on 2023, because it has been a good year.
Yeah.
There have been ups and downs. There have been good things, bad things. So I think we erred on the idea that we would spend some time talking about 2023, but have a little look forward to 2024 as well.
Yeah.
And we've got our glasses of...
Yeah, of course.
It's Prosecco, isn't it? Cheers. Cheers, everyone.
It'll help us along the way.
Yeah.
No, I think what we decided was... like you say, instead of just saying, oh, what are you going to do for the new year? We have got an idea for our next episode, which is about big decisions. And the reason we fell onto that was because we were chatting last night, talking about this podcast today. And we said, God, we always seem to have made big decisions in New Year. That has impacted both our lives.
In our lives, in the run-up.
Yeah.
Like December,
you with jobs,
January.
Me with divorce or whatever. And we'll talk very much about that in the next episode. But this episode, we just wanted to make it a little bit more chill and a little bit more get to know us. And for us to have an opportunity to talk about what we actually do, because so many people say to us, what do you do? Oh, Patrick, you've retired, haven't you? And all these sorts of cliched expectations of how people think we live our lives. And we all do that to each other, don't we?
And
we all make assumptions.
Yeah.
And whilst we don't want to give warts and all of our life, because that's just not really who we are, although people think we are.
Well, hang on.
We do want to give a flavour.
We do. And one thing you haven't talked about yet is this new setting.
Oh,
because
yeah. Well, it's not new. It's just for Christmas.
For the audio, for the listeners
yes.
on audio, you won't know, but we're actually sitting in our room. We're not in the usual place where we record this. Obviously, YouTubers will be able to see this, but when you talk about things that you do, what you do, amongst other many, many things, is decorate great Christmas trees.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
it
behind
looks
us.
Nice, doesn't it?
So we have our Christmas tree behind us. Not that we necessarily want to date this too much, but we have our Christmas tree behind us.
Yeah, so if you want to check it out, go and have a little look on YouTube. And subscribe while you're there, because I haven't got many subscribers. We haven't got many subscribers, I should say. But the reason is that we're not really very good at it. And they keep wanting money off us. So
who do?
YouTube to promote it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we're very much into what happens, and we'll see. But anyway, while you're there, press subscribe, and then you'll get to hear the episodes in advance of everyone else.
And you'll be able to see
Michelle's
wonderful Christmas tree.
Yeah. So moving on. So what we thought we'd do, to be fair, we do this. Every quarter we try and reflect on achievements and goals and whatever else that we've done. So we thought we would start with how 2023 was for us. But then you came up with, or you read about an idea of how we should do that rather than just listing achievements, which I always advocate that we should always pause and stop and look back at what we've done. And even the smallest things are actually achievements. But more so at this time of year, we should do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the sort of person, I always like structures and things like that. And this was a tweet, wasn't it? This was a tweet by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
And he was saying, get to the end of the year and then pause, take some time. And he said, get a bit of paper with a pen, write 2 columns, positives and negatives, and try to think, just brain dump and write a list of all the positive things, the good things that have happened to you during the year. Then write a list of all the things that were not so good or got you down, that upset you, write a list of those. Once you've got that long list, try to work out 20% of the good things that really, really made your year. And then in 2024, try to do more of those.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And the obvious thing is, obviously, with the negatives, you want to stop doing those. And he made the...
Can I just interrupt you there? When you say stop doing those, but if you write down, if crappy things have happened to you, crappy things happen, but it's really think about how you responded to it, how you dealt with it. And if you think realistically you went down that negative self-talk spiral for too long, or you overreacted to something that has had a ripple effect on something, just be dead honest with yourself and think, could I have responded better? Naturally, if something particularly bad has happened, then that's a totally different conversation. But just everyday life stuff where you think you could have done better. And I think to hone in on, you don't have to have a really long list either, though, do you?
No.
Just hone in on
the short, and that's why he was saying once you got your long list, just 20%. So it might be just 2 or 3 things. And as you say, on the negatives, it's how you've responded to certain situations. It's down to some of the things we've talked in previous podcasts in terms of making decisions as to who you want to surround yourself with, who drains your energy, who gives you energy, and those sorts of things to try to come up with just a very, very short list of pluses and minuses to take into the year. So I thought that was quite helpful.
Yeah. So are we going to do that for each other?
We will.
Should we do it now?
We can do, yeah.
I'm going to make you start then, seeing as you'll tell everyone what to do. So tell me, Patrick, what are your achievements? So you can list a few and then hone in on a couple, and what were some, and then link it to perhaps some downsides.
Okay.
And I think you can do better in 2024.
Yeah, I think we need to make even better.
Even better.
Even better. Wow, what pressure. Even better. Now, I think it'd be good to have a mixture of sort of worky business related things that have gone well as home personal, even though our home personal business all sort of mixes up
it does
for us at the moment. So one of the highlights, sort of business wise, I mentioned a few of them. One of them was our involvement in Baltic Ventures, which is a Liverpool based what they call a tech accelerator. So it's effectively a startup fund for tech companies. And the operating costs have been funded by Liverpool City Region for 5 years. And the object was that for each year of those 5 years, Baltic Ventures, which is a company set up for this purpose, would select 10 companies, startup companies, to put funding into. And as you know, you and I were investors in Baltic Ventures. So we're angel investors, and we're one of, I think there were 8 or 9 investors, and we all clubbed in some money. And basically, it's like a dragon's den, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that went really, really well. We ended up with 9 companies. So there were some 200 applications, some great companies put their names forward. We eventually had 17 that pitched to us as a group of investors, and we had to decide 10, which then became 9 for various reasons. But we selected 9 companies to take forward. And those companies got obviously a financial investment and some coaching, access to advisors and technical expertise, help on funding and funding strategies and so on. And we've now got we put a little bit of money that way. We're doing coaching, and now we've got to see how that all works out.
Yeah, no, but did you enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Absolutely. I think people who watch Dragon's Den always want to
be a dragon.
They want to be dragon. I think they want to be a dragon.
We don't have quite Dragon's Den money.
No. Well, no, we don't. But it's all sorts.
Which is why we're part of a syndicate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all spread.
But I think for us, it was part of, again, we've talked in previous podcasts about pursuing our purpose. And one of our passions is definitely our city. If anyone who knows me and now knows you've been in the city for 10 years, that Liverpool means a lot to us. And the economic growth is something that I've been involved in for many, many years. And this is, while we pulled back during and after lockdown, this is our way of dipping our toe back in and giving back to our city with a view to job creation and building businesses, contributing to it without having to well, having the ball ache of actually going out and doing it ourselves,
Yeah.
because we've been there, seen it, and done it
Mm.
ourselves. So we now want to use our expertise and a little bit of money to give back to help other businesses do the same. So I think for us that's been a great experience,
Yeah.
and one that's not going to come to an end, and hopefully will grow into
No,
2024.
That's right. And we talked about things to take forward into 2024, and in different ways. We probably won't do another thing exactly like that, but in terms of getting involved in other businesses, we'll touch on this towards the end, but we've got a few ideas and so on in terms of that sort of thing. So that's one, a businessy one, and I'll just do a personal one, and then you can go.
Okay.
Which is also, it's sort of to do with my self-care in a way, and again, being conscious of I'm in midlife. You know that I'm quite sort of focused on trying to stay healthy, and in 2023 I entered a half marathon and ran that with a training partner from the Mersey Triathlon Club that I am a member of, and we trained together. She's now gone off to New Zealand with her partner to live and work over there. But before she went, we trained together and we did the half marathon. And that's allowed me to set my sights on other things in 2024. But
Well, you may as
sort
well
of
say what you've done.
What?
You've just signed up today.
Oh, I've signed up today. Yes, I have signed up. I have signed up for the Dublin Marathon in 2024, which is in October. And I've only ever done one marathon in my life. And that marathon I did when I was 18 years old. I won't say what time I got in that marathon when I was 18, because there's no way that I'm going to get anywhere near it when I do this marathon next year. But it'll be, so I turn 58 next February. So it'll be exactly 40 years since I did my one and only other marathon. So that's why I had...
And I just get back. Not that I don't have faith in you. I'm just like, just get back.
I will get back.
Just get back. Yeah. And don't worry about the time. But again, it's a real goal for you now, isn't it?
It is,
work on that.
Yeah.
You did the half Ironman last year as well. I know that wasn't this year.
Yes, sorry, 2022. Yes.
And so it's not like you're going fresh into this without having done any training.
Yeah.
Although we have let our fitness absolutely lapse in December, and we've been pretty good, I think, this year. I'm dead proud of myself.
I think we've been really good.
Yeah.
I think we're in terms of our consistency, it's only in the last few weeks. I mean, we were both quite ill.
Yeah.
And that knocked us back. And then we've been incredibly busy in December. Some people can say, well, that's just an excuse. Other people, I say, well, it's busyness.
Yeah.
But we're determined to get back.
Yeah, we know we will.
To that consistency, because we both enjoy it.
Yeah, we do. We do. So upsides for me, there's been quite a lot, but I'm going to hone in on my coaching certification, because I'm just going back to the very beginning of 2023. I'd actually started it in 2022. I was determined to achieve something for myself, and I'm an avid learner, and it's something that I love to do, but it's actually quite nice to do something formally. I teach, I've done a lot of self-development, and I wanted to give some formality to all this stuff that I've been learning in the last few years. People have told me I'm a sort of natural coach and mentor, but I always felt like I didn't want to put myself out there as that without the qualification. I did the Jay Shetty course, and it was really time intensive and way more, much harder than I thought it was going to be. But I absolutely loved it. Not only about the skill set that I've learned in terms of passing on, combining my own life experience with coaching skill set, but also on the self-reflection that it made you do. So it made you actually realize how much you actually know already.
I was absolutely amazed with the amount of work
I know.
you had to do on that course.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to I don't know much about long-term online courses. Courses, I've done online courses for half a day or so on, but this was over
6 months. 6 months.
Yeah.
You could do it within 6 months, but I think I did it in 4. Yeah.
And even when you were approaching what they call graduation, finishing the course, they were still putting on pressure. You were still getting the message that if you didn't submit certain pieces of work that met a certain standard, that you might not graduate.
Yeah.
And they held that right. It's like doing your final.
It wasn't might not. You would. It wasn't might not.
University.
You wouldn't.
So
and you had to pass all these modules. It was a really, but I loved it, and I would, it made me make that shift. Is what I was determined to do. Is make that shift from being the learner and absorbing it and thinking I've got to learn, to actually transitioning into I can share with expertise. I can share my knowledge confidently, and I can make a difference to people's lives. Like I've made a difference to my own through my own learnings. And obviously I've had my counselling, which I still have, and I did get a coach during lockdown. And but I wanted to make that shift from being the learner. Not that I will ever stop learning, because we all, and I love learning, but to make that shift, to that mindset shift to being somebody who imparts that knowledge and can guide people to make a better life for themselves. And that then transitioned into, me getting some fabulous, wonderful coaching clients as well. And so I was really proud of myself for that. And that's something I definitely want to build on in 2024.
Yeah, and I've noticed that change in you. And I think
talk to a friend, talk to the right people who are going to energize you and not deplete you.
Yeah, get that monkey off your shoulder.
Get them and delete the negative. Or is it cut the crap that holds you back? So I like
that's
that.
a good one.
There you go.
I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I don't know. I have heard it, but I didn't make it up. I'd like to think I did, but I like it.
Holds you back.
Yeah, it's cut out the negative noise.
Yeah. We used to joke about your coaching course that you wouldn't then be able to, after you've done, when you become a coach, it's not about advising people or giving suggestions as to what they should be doing. You're meant to ask the right questions, aren't you? As you were saying. So you've got to empower your client, not tell them what to do. So it's a real skill set. Yeah. It's definitely different to mentoring, and coaching can get a real negative press because people imply that they're coaches. But unless you've got that certification and accreditation, I think if you be very careful about who you're choosing, if you are choosing a coach, and if it's something that you think you might be interested in, if you're stuck in any way, I'm not saying come to me, but just look out for someone who you think you can truly connect with, because anyone who knows me knows I'm not going to do things exactly by the book. What I'm going to bring is me to it, but I am using, that coaching knowledge and those credentials that I've learned and gained to mix the two together and give a really unique experience to whoever becomes a coaching client. And that tends to be at the moment midlifers. But we did something a few weeks ago that made us realize that we wanted to get into perhaps coaching more young adults as well, around our passion, which is around that power of communication, connection and conversation and stuff. So that's something we definitely want to build on, having been into John Moores University last week. And I think that will grow. Yeah. Those, we spent some time mentoring final year business students.
Yeah.
And that was well, hopefully they got a lot out of it. We got a lot out of it as well. And again, maybe not necessarily for this podcast, but maybe we can talk about the younger generation mentoring, what people can get out of talking to people like us as they're coming out of school, coming out of university, entering the world of work, and so on.
Yeah. We definitely want to do more on that.
Just going back to your coaching, I noticed that that even you around the house as well, instead of like, you're less telling me what to do as a coach, and instead you just fire questions at me.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah, how does that make me feel?
If you were to carry on with this behavior, where do you visualize yourself in 6 months' time?
I think it's a much safer space if you just direct me to do things. Tell me what to do, and I'll go and do them quietly and get them done. Quietly
tell me to off under your breath. But anyway,
so that's positive, and then you were going to
Oh,
do.
well, the negative on that one was, I mean, I don't want to go. I did sort of hint at it that there is a negative connotation around some coaching about life coach, and I haven't overly promoted myself as a coach, and that's twofold. I have to admit that part of it is that hesitation of the negative connotation. I don't want that attached to me, and I need to just get over that. But I also think the other conscious decision of I'm very much in a place, and we are, is what will be. People will come to us naturally, and that is what has happened so far with my coaching clients. They've either come on recommendation, or they've listened to the podcast and said, can we have a conversation? And I will always have that I say half an hour, but it always ends up being at least an hour to see if that gel and connection is going to work. Yeah. So the negative was just really me still, and we all do it, allowing that chimp on my shoulder to the voice to get sometimes a little bit loud in terms of not promoting that offer, but I need to get better at that.
To be honest, I think you already know this, but since you've done the coaching qualification, I have a bit of an eye roll type attitude when I'm reading people's bios and in amongst however they're describing themselves, they just happen to be a coach as well. And I always hesitate and I think, well, hang on, are you just throwing that in as you're a coach? You're a coach, you're a mentor, you're this, that, and the other. Or are you actually have you been through that training? Are you a qualified coach? Because there's definitely a difference between somebody who is a qualified, certified with an accredited coaching training academy or school, and somebody who just happens to put down.
And it wasn't just for a few weeks, as well. I think, again, there are, unfortunately, and I think it will get much more regulated and tightly regulated as coaching becomes much more popular, which is it's one of the fastest growing professions. But yes, I'd just be very careful. Mentoring and coaching are slightly different. Yeah, and I think, well, they're very different, in fact, but I think that's probably part of the problem, is that people don't understand what the difference is.
And we've said
mentoring is very much based on your life experience and what you've experienced, and this is what happened to me, so I would do X, Y, Z, and advising people what to do based on your experience. Whereas life coaching is very much getting the client to think, unlocking what's within the client themselves, and then finding the answers within themselves, because they say people are much more likely to respond when they've worked out the answer for themselves rather than being told what to do.
And that's so, when in the world of work, when you read about different management styles, one of the management styles that they say people have is a coaching style. Because they use those, they sit down with people that they work with, and they use a coaching style to ask them the questions and get it out to them, which is fine. I think coaching style is great. And coach maybe with a small c in a bio is fine. Coach with a capital C is required, when you've got that qualification.
So that was a big one for me.
That was okay.
That probably went on a little bit too long. I'm not
sure.
But
I think it's worth.
I hope we haven't bored people, because I am conscious we don't want to be using the podcast to be overly promoting ourselves. But it was a genuine win. Yeah, it was. You haven't said anything negative yet. I know you're actually never negative, so I know that might be quite tricky for you. But have you had any sort of dips this year in your mindset, or? Yeah.
Maybe I'm not negative because I stick all the negative stuff in a corner of my brain and forget about it. One thing that really gets me, or has really got me in 2023, particularly, is this concept of when people say, "What do you do? Are you retired?" And it is so easy when people say,
sorry, just to interrupt there, they don't actually say, "Are you retired?" They assume you are.
They either assume you are. But it is such an easy. Sometimes when I want to shut people up and they say, "What do you do?" I just say, "I'm retired."
Oh God, I hate that.
I absolutely hate it too. And as a bit of an aside, in America they call people seniors.
Oh,
Because in America has never had a retirement date for, well, I don't know when they changed that. It was decades ago.
okay. I didn't know
So
that.
it's only relatively recently in the UK that we got rid of the retirement date. So in this country, you're either working or you're retired. And the only thing that has changed with me is that I left my last full-time job and I've decided to do different things. But people still say, what do you do? Are you retired? And when you don't have, if you're not running a single business or you don't have a single job, it's actually a more difficult question to answer. I could describe what I do, but I've got to just a different stage of my life. And I suppose the negative for me is that I haven't yet got to grips with what I say to people. When they say, what do you do? Are you retired?
But didn't we talk about this? And, what do you actually want to say to them?
Well, I'd like to spend 2 or 3 minutes describing what I do. Okay. So that's what I'd like to do without boring people.
No, I know.
Without their eyes, because sometimes when people say, "What do you
don't
do?"
understand sometimes.
Or some people,
they go, "Are you mad?"
Or when some people ask what they do, they're not really interested in your answer. They're asking because they're just being polite.
Yeah.
And so if you start going into say anything other than say, "Well, I'm a taxi driver, or I'm a shopkeeper, or I work for so and so company," whatever, it all becomes a bit too hard and difficult.
Well, I've faced that pretty much since the day I left the law.
Yeah.
So I'm used to it. I remember, people go, what is it you do? And because I did lots of different things for different businesses, people like to put people in boxes. It does make them feel better about themselves.
It reminds me.
Or they like to give people titles, and therefore they place you in like hierarchy. It's like really weird, It
reminds me of our friend Emma Grace and her little was a TikTok
video.
The
accountant. I'm an accountant.
So she basically says
she's an actress.
Yeah, she's an actress.
Oh, actor, I should say.
Yeah. And she's recorded this thing, and I think it is a voiceover that she's used. So it's a voice. It's not her voice, but she's acting to it about being an accountant. If anybody comes up to her in a party and says, "What do you do?" The way she shuts people up is to say, "I'm an accountant,"
because nobody asks any more questions when you say you're an accountant.
Now, of course, the truth is, I am a trained accountant, so I could always wheel that out.
Oh no,
I've never
don't.
thought of that.
Yeah. I know.
Why? What's wrong?
But it is really.
What's wrong with accountants?
It's very handy. You're very handy for the spreadsheets. But no, I mean, but now we've got Talk On to Walk On as our business. With the podcast, the coaching, and the talks, which we're both going to grow. You're doing the mentoring as well, and we're definitely. Have adjusted our mindset to do that together now. It was initially going to be just me on my own, but I think I've sort of slowly wheeled you in. And that's been very conscious. I've been very conscious to not really beg to get you involved.
Not reel me in with me really struggling at the end of the line.
Correct.
Just to reel me in.
But
slowly.
no, I think you've just dipped your toe in and you like where it's going, and you like, don't say I'm putting words in your mouth. And not. It makes it really look like I am at the moment. You go,
yes. No, but in all sincerity.
But on the side of that, we've got Baltic, and we've got other investments and other businesses that we mentor, and you've got your non-exec stuff as well.
Yeah. And we've got exciting things for next year, which we will not talk about now. We've got some ideas, some things brewing.
Yes.
Which is more to do with us working together and growing what we've developed here. You've got a little canine.
Dogs is what we do. Sorry
companion.
For those who aren't watching on YouTube, you actually can't see him, but he's appeared. Well, I don't know where the other one is, but
well, whether you're listening to this audio podcast or watching it on YouTube, you won't see the dog who's out of camera shot.
I know, but he's right here, and he's like looking very cute. So where are we now? Gosh, I feel like we've jumped around, and I
No.
did interrupt your mindset thing there. But I think
No.
the thing about coming back to the retirement point is we very much fill our days with purposeful stuff. Obviously, we have days where we're doing our garden, we walk the dogs every day, but very much busy.
Yeah.
And that basically invariably involves either talk on to walk on, coaching, podcasts and talks, or other stuff, isn't it? Really, and it all involves giving our time.
Yeah.
We give our time away.
And I
a
suppose the
lot.
reason why occasionally on episodes like this one, we talk about this sort of stuff and share this sort of stuff is for people to get to know us and get to know outside of our type of, the episodes when we've got guests and so on, getting to know us and getting to know what makes us tick and what drives some of our behaviors and discussions and so on.
Yeah, but I think very much us as people, we're very much into just giving back and making time for people, but it's got to be the right people. We're very selective, aren't we?
Yeah.
But when you get us, you get great value. I'm going to say it, and I think those who are in our lives, who we have given our time to, know that about us.
Yeah.
And we get great pleasure from it as well.
Yeah.
We never begrudge it, do we?
No. And when we're looking back at 2023, I'm shifting the tone a little bit here, but when we look back at 2023, we've got to remember some of those people who we've lost during the year.
Yeah.
Some people that we've known.
Yeah.
That have been very, one of your podcast guests.
Yeah.
People that we've been quite close to, and people that we've been less close to, but have had some sort of impact on our lives as well.
Yeah. Yeah. We just. But yeah, that was hard. I mean, but I think the big thing for us was the age of them. So we had Danny de Brabander, I think 42, I think he was, our podcast guest. Incredible. If you haven't listened to his podcast, we recorded it back in 2021, and I've now put that on YouTube, just as a tribute, because I originally recorded audio, but we did video. We just weren't au fait with iMovie at the time. So that is now on YouTube. Incredibly inspirational, Danny. And again, we are contributed to his Team DDB efforts, which was all about being kind to people and raising money for local food banks and local causes in the community, and cancer. The hospital where he has his cancer and bowel cancer research. Then we had our lovely friend Ant Clausen. Again, I think he was 45. I may be wrong with the ages, but I know they were all in the 40s, who very suddenly passed away. And he did all our photographs for our website, as well as being a great friend of ours. Which was incredibly sad, and but we've got much closer to Natalia now. She was just here the other day, and we have some lovely conversations with Natalia, and we're hoping to help her push her Fire It Up campaign, which is about getting youngsters involved in photography. And then Dan Kay, who I worked with at the Liverpool Echo, and he was again a wonderful writer. And wonderful human and soul, and he passed away suddenly as well, and again in his 40s. And there are others, we could go on, but they were sort of the ones that very much sprung to mind in terms of age and really appreciating life. The other one, just to mention briefly, was we didn't know her, but Elle Edwards. We've got to know Tim only briefly, and in the last few months through John May, and John was on our podcast, and they did this walk together and became wonderful friends. So Tim joined John on his walk from Land's End to John O'Groats to raise awareness for Weapons Down, Gloves Up. And it's a beautiful story. And so again, I advocate you having a listen to that. And he is setting up, or has set up, the Elle Edwards Foundation. And we're looking to support that as well in 2024. So again, where it fits in with what I said earlier about how when we connect with people, we really do connect.
Yeah.
We don't just do a podcast. The people we have in our lives and come on the podcast, we very much do a whole, we bring them into our life.
Yeah.
Get
to know them.
And we really get to know them.
And the thing that,
and support them in any way that we can after the podcast.
And all of those names you mentioned, all of them now have friends, relatives, loved ones who are carrying forward
their legacy.
They've set up foundations. They've set up good causes which are promoting something that was either dear to them or something that was related to their passing.
Yes.
And that'll carry on. They've all got plans in 2024.
Yeah.
And their legacy will continue through next year and beyond.
Yeah. But for me, I had some counselling on this, and it was actually quite interesting. I probably should look back at my notes actually, but it just, when I heard this news of each of them, I just got so incredibly sad. And okay, people go, well, obviously you did, but actually, no, I got really, really sad to the point I was just sobbing. And I'm like, I said to my counsellor, I know them, but they're not my family. Why am I so upset? And obviously he knows I'm a genuinely naturally empathetic person, and I feel loss because I've had loss. We've all had loss, but for some reason I just seem to really connect with it. But he also made a really interesting point about how when it's friendships and people on the edge of your life, you tend to see them in much more of a beautiful way. Okay, family, it's your family, you see warts and all, and I'm not saying it's a different kind of grief.
Yes.
Because it's a longer grief and a trickier grief because you're so used to them being in your life. But when it's somebody you just know on the edge of your life and who you really admire, you do put them on a pedestal, don't you?
Yeah.
And you just hone in on all the wonderful stuff that you know them for, and what we use the podcast to promote them for, and why they're in our life. And so I thought that was quite interesting, and that sort of helped me really answer that question of, I felt that sometimes my tears shouldn't be justified. Does that make sense?
No,
does that make sense?
It does.
I'm not saying not justified, but just like, why am I so upset? Why am I feeling this so much in my heart when they're not my family?
No, I understand that. But one of the things that helps in that is the fact that even though they've passed away, there's something that's in them in terms of that's being carried forward. So and it helps remembering them as well. Yeah, and that's why the word legacy, if you think about it, it's a great word because it means that it's something that will be remembered going forwards. They're not forgotten.
I think the other thing that I was reminded of was that I had both Ant and Dan as potential podcast guests.
Yes.
And I didn't get that chance. Dan in particular, Dan contributed massively to the Hillsborough Justice campaign, and he was a contributive writer to the Anne Williams fabulous docudrama. Anne was one of the Hillsborough mums who helped get justice for the fans. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But it wasn't just for that. They were just both Ant had traveled the world. He's one of the most wonderful photographer, with the most beautiful family and beautiful soul. And they both had brilliant stories to tell. And I was just thinking it was a lost opportunity, missed opportunity. And it kicked me into touch actually in terms of how I want to carry on with the podcast. Because sometimes we do have a wobble, don't we? And have our doubts.
And it does spur you on to book guests and to say, if this is somebody I want to get on the podcast, let's get him or her in and deal with it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look forward to 2024 without making any New Year's resolutions, because we just want to keep it real, don't we? And we've all been there, made New Year's resolutions, and then they say, I think it's by 28th February or mid-February, they've all been forgotten.
Except we've recorded a whole episode about habits.
I know.
So we've got no excuse.
No, I know that. So we
I know.
just...
But we're not going to do New Year's resolutions.
I know, because it should just start now.
Absolutely.
If you want to do something,
Agreed.
just start now.
Agreed.
Whatever month it is, whatever day it is, if there's something that you really want to do,
start now
and listen to the habits episode and take some tips from there.
So
but the key is you can't just make a change overnight. You've got to make small steps to make big progress and make it realistic, make it fit in your life. Have a goal, set aside the time. I mean, there's all the tips, and then to be honest, I've forgotten half.
And I'll say one thing about habits, because this is in the episode. I love the add, edit, delete bit. So about for New Year's resolutions or habits, add good habits, new good habits, edit, i.e. change existing habits that you want to just modify, whatever, and delete, get rid of bad habits. So add, edit, delete. So constantly thinking, what am I doing? Adding, editing, deleting.
Yeah, and I think as you change, you build on habits as well. So that's what I was trying to say before. Is just start small. If you do one thing, honestly, it makes space to do another habit. So just do one at a time. That will be my top tip on if you want to make your New Year's resolutions to keep them sustainable.
Yes.
But obviously in the next episode, we are going to talk about big decisions and not just small habits. Because like I said at the beginning of the episode, Christmas and New Year tend to be a really reflective time.
And we've got some big decisions coming up.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. And that's what we were saying. We've got big decisions about the podcast, big decisions about our business, and a couple of other things coming up. Yeah. So we will be applying those tips, but we'll talk about big decisions in our next episode. For me, alt, edit, delete, that works. But my big thing with habits and New Year's resolutions is self-talk. And I will come back to it every time. You can put all the systems and processes in place and do everything that you need to do to change a habit and get better at something. But if you're still telling yourself that I'm not good enough, I'm not as good as them, this will never happen, all this stuff that we say to ourselves, comparing yourself, you're doing, it just won't happen. So really work on that self-talk. You can interrupt those thoughts, and whatever you need to do to interrupt them, pick what works for you, go for your walk, take your long showers, be with your dogs, just make space, talk to a friend, talk to the right people who are going to energize you and not deplete you.
Yeah, get that monkey off your shoulder.
Get them and delete the negative, or is it cut the crap that holds you back? So
that's a good one.
There you go.
I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I don't know. I have heard it, but I didn't make it up. I'd like to think I did, but I like it.
Holds you back.
It's cut out the negative noise. Yeah. Definitely. So mindset, that would be I'm always going to bang on about self-talk and mindset and the conversation you have with yourselves.
Yes, and that's a good positive way to end, because it comes back to power of conversation. Whether that's self-talk or talking to others is something we feel really, really strongly about. And it's something that we don't do enough of, and we want to encourage people.
We will always it's not positive self-talk. Self-talk is just something you have to work on every day. But it does become a habit that gets easier if you're really conscious of it. And power of conversation is just talking to the right people who not necessarily will give you say what you want to hear, but will say some words to you that will help you walk on in life.
And with a spring in your step. And energize
confidence
you.
And courage and all those things. And that will, whichever direction we take this podcast in, that and our business and the Talk on business, that is going to be still what we bang on about. So if you're here for it and want more of it, more of us too, more of our guests, more of Midlife, Muddle and Midlife to 100, I do things that Patrick he's changed his Instagram, so give him a follow. He's going to be posting more. So he says, again, Nothing to do with me. He's made this decision all by himself.
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
I nearly dropped my cup of tea the other day when he said he wanted to up his Instagram posting. So yes, watch this space, and Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, all that. And here's to new beginnings, but actually here's to keeping some of the old stuff as well that you like.
Yeah, and you'll hear from us in January.
Yes.
And we'll look forward to it.
Cheers. Happy New Year.
Cheers.
And Happy Christmas. Should it be the other way around?
I don't know.
We would love to talk to you about how we can share our many life lessons so you, your team, or your students can walk on in life with confidence. If you're listening to the audio version of our podcast, don't forget you can also watch full episodes and view highlights on our YouTube channel. Obviously, if you would like to sponsor our podcast, we would also love to hear from you. So let's connect, have a conversation, and you never know where it will lead.